Excellent. A very good afternoon to everybody. My name is Ron Maycock, and I'm the owner of Action Coach Castleford and Business Performance UK. And I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon on a very sunny day by Jonathan Blenkey. Very good afternoon to you, Jonathan.
Afternoon, Ron. You okay?
Yeah, very good, very good. Enjoying the Yorkshire sunshine. So,
Yeah, good.
Jonathan is the co-director of Zinc Consult, and we're going to be hearing a lot more from Jonathan in just a few moments' time. Before we do that, I really just wanted to elaborate and just expand on what the purpose of these interviews actually is. We're surrounded by some amazing businesses in our region. They've each got their own stories, and these interviews help us share those journeys, showcase their achievements, and ultimately maximize their exposure. Now, we do this all in the name of abundance, and it's for the benefit of businesses right the way across the UK and also internationally. So anything we can do to increase exposure of those companies, the better. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jonathan. Jonathan, tell me a little bit more about Zinc Consults.
Yeah, a little bit more about Zinc. Well, we set up about 9 years ago, myself and co-founder Mike Phillips, established a network in the construction industry, predominantly in infrastructure, and within that, predominantly in rail. We offer pre-post contract commercial support services, which are effectively we're quantity surveyors by background. That's expanded a little bit out from traditional quantity surveying into a wider breadth of anything commercial to do with construction projects, really. We work across the industry for client side and supplier side, so we've got quite a good depth. Over the 9 years, we've grown steadily, and there's about 35 of us now in the company. It's quite a good work bank going there, and the future's looking good. We've got a good order book looking forward. So yeah, it's been an exciting 9 years since we set up.
And in terms of, for those not familiar with the terminology, so quantity surveying, cost management of projects, is that
that's it?
a good
Yeah,
sort of
exactly. Yeah,
information?
So
And when do you normally get involved? Is this as right the way through the project, so you're managing the cost right the way through delivery, or is this just in the planning phases?
Ideally, I think as I think most companies would tell you, they can have the most benefit by getting involved early in the project.
Yeah.
In reality, it's a mix. It depends when the clients really call you in, but if given the opportunity, we'd like to get involved at the early stages. That's where you can have the most benefit in estimating, optioneering, looking at the best value that a project can give, and what the best solutions are.
And you said sort of
helping clients
infrastructure.
on that and delivering them through. It's quite exciting to take it from the start right to the finish as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you said infrastructure. So what kind of things? You said mainly rail, was that right?
It's mainly rail, and that's because that is really our background. And myself and business partner, we spent work for quantity surveying companies. Then we both, but quite a similar background actually, both worked for quantity surveying companies. Then we worked for Network Rail for quite a long time. We left Network Rail and set up. So from our rail background, our time at Network Rail, that's where the work is coming from. That's where the clients are and our contacts are. So although we do work in other sectors, we do some highways work as well. The bulk of the work is in rail because that's where our specific skill set is.
And are you certain areas around us? I think you're based in Leeds, but York and Doncaster, synonymous with the rail industry as big hubs. Has it been any particular part of rail, so East Coast Main Line or anything, or are you across the entire network in the whole of the UK?
We do work. Most of the work is in the north, like you said, the rail hubs. Doncaster is a rail town, York's a rail town, Crewe's a rail town. So you got the old established rail hubs where the rail seems to grow from. But we do probably, I would say, 75% of our work in the north of England. There's a lot of rail network around South Yorkshire, around the Yorkshire area. So there's a lot of work to do around there. We do a lot of work on the Transpennine upgrade, which is a big electrification project, which is really exciting, and it's an excellent project to be on. Really enjoyed working on that. That's improving the network over the Pennines.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you seeing things change? the rail industry and highways to an extent has, I'll use the term, quite traditional. The way that they've operated has been a particular nuance that has worked for them, or not, as the case may be. What changes are you seeing now in the industry? And also, I guess, are there any changes that you've had to make or have embraced since we were forced through lockdown and you couldn't operate as you were doing?
Yeah, so I think changes. It has changed. I've been working in the construction industry for over 30 years and over 20 in rail. So there has been changes. Obviously, post lockdown, you've got the technology changes coming in. We're on a Teams call. We're on a Teams call now, so we can talk. With 5 years ago, that probably wouldn't have happened. So you've got to embrace the technology and move along with that. So all that's changed as well. And I think also the focus from clients has changed. There's a lot more onus on value for money, which is a quantity survey is good news. It's good news for people who pay taxes as well that pay for these projects. But there's a lot more focus coming down from main government into the funders, the Department of Transport, etc., on providing value for money and actually proving value for money, not just making statements about, yes, we're going to deliver value for money by doing these things, actually proving it and putting in, doing analysis, doing work, doing benchmarking, doing some value for work analysis on how you're actually going to do it, what you're going to do, what benefits you can do if we change it, did this instead of this, or we did design this like this instead, and bring some changes in and deliver that value. So there is a lot more emphasis on that, and embracing that change and bringing a bit of innovation. Now, I can't pretend that the rail industry is at the forefront of accepting innovation. It's not. It is, like you say, it's quite traditional, but it is moving, and it is evolving a little bit and moving with the times, and more embracing that as these challenges are coming down from the funders to deliver value for money.
Are you finding the type of projects is changing? Is it moving more to a combination of efficient delivery, so electrification, and also green innovations that are starting to be at the forefront of infrastructure investment?
Yeah. It's obviously these projects, these infrastructure projects, government funded projects, are for the benefit of the public. So there's got to be the public benefit there, and there's a lot of onus. I think there always has been, but there's increasing onus on what's the right thing to do for the public in terms of even during the construction phase, disrupting people during the construction phase. What is the best and most efficient way we can do that to disrupt the public the less, sorry, and also deliver the end product that they're going to want.
And does your input extend to the costings from a business perspective of interruption to services, or is it simply based on the project and then it's someone else internally within whatever rail operator is to actually look at how do they fund that in terms of disruption to service?
Yeah, our involvement is mostly around the construction side. So what is the best way to construct that project? We work with the designers, pricing the designs. What's the options? What's the best options on the design? What's the best options but not just design, but the methodology of them building it. What's the most efficient way to deliver that? And work within the budget as well, because all jobs have a budget.
Yeah.
That bust your budgets. So how do you deliver that? And sometimes the requirements are very big and onerous compared to a small budget. So what can you do to deliver the best benefit out of that?
Yeah, no, definitely. And you said that you've been in the rail industry, construction for 30 years, 20 years in the rail side specifically, but you said that you're also doing highway. So has that been a new direction, excuse the pun, of travel? But is that a conscious decision, or has that been sort of consequential?
Yeah, it is. And like all businesses, we have plans and strategies about what we're going to do in the future. And a good quantity surveyor is a good quantity surveyor. It's the same core skills no matter what industry they're working in. So obviously, industries love acronyms, and there's a lot of nuances and acronyms in each particular industry. But it still boils down to good commercial support is it's the same core skills no matter what industry you're working in.
Mm-hmm.
So it is quite adaptable. It's just, like all businesses, it's getting in there and getting the opportunity to show what you can do.
Absolutely.
And the benefits you can bring. So
so
that's what we're doing. We've made some headways into highways, and we're pushing into renewables and other industries as well.
Yeah. And who's the ideal client? Is it the main contractor? Is it normally as a subcontract? Is it the government? Is it who would you like to attract in the future?
We'd like to work for a mix. We do work for the government side, and we work for the client side, and we work for the supply chain side. I think if you work for both, you keep that balance and you understand people's needs and requirements when you're working for both parties, you can see both points of view a little bit, and it helps you bring a better service. And I'm not suggesting 1 minute you're pig in the middle almost, but you can understand the drivers, the business drivers of both sides, and you can ultimately help each side deliver a better outcome by understanding that. Whereas if you're just purely working on for the clients or the suppliers, you might be a bit blinkered like that.
Yeah,
but
no,
also, I'm honest,
I think it's really good to have that perspective across the whole supply chain. At times, yes, there's going to be ulterior motives, and you have to be aware of you are working for the person that's paying you.
Yeah.
That said, then I'm guessing over the 20 years you've seen different scenarios where that's the path that they're taking. You can start to advise and say, actually, these are the risks inherent that could impact on the cost of this project, and so on. So you said that it's been a conscious decision to de-risk the balance of your business and where that's actually coming from by adding new markets and moving certainly with the trends that we're starting to see in infrastructure projects being led by green initiatives or whatever that may be. So where do you, when you said you've got a business plan for moving forward, and as every business does, what's in that? Where do you see the next steps? Where are you wanting the business to head to?
I think it's stating the obvious, it's other sectors, but also it's embracing change and innovation. We've developed things like digitalization. We've developed a digital contract management system using our experience of quantity surveyors on the jobs we've been working on. The main management team in Zinc have developed and put their brains behind all the problems we've had on jobs, trying to run jobs for clients and suppliers, doing the digital contract management system that helps run a job more efficiently. How do you deal with change? How do you ensure that change is agreed? All those type of things. And how do you report on a project? How do you produce management reports of different tiers of management who want different levels of detail? Yeah. So we've put a lot of effort into developing. We've had a lot of support as well on that and a lot of feedback on that. And it's now getting rolled out and it's going really well. So we things, to answer your question, embracing things like that digitalization. And that then is, that, for example, has helped us get talking to people in the renewals industry who are interested in that. Where, rather than if we just approach them as a quantity surveyor, there are lots of quantity surveyors in the phone book they can go to, but we've got something we can go show them that's a little bit different. They quite like it. They quite like to explore it and change it a little bit to suit their needs as well, but it's there. And it opens doors and gets you talking to people.
The software is very interesting. So at the moment, is it ultimately proprietary rights sit for your own benefit and can be used by clients? Or is this something that you see rolling out as a commercialized offering that other project management companies, quantity surveyors, whatever it may be, could buy that software off you? So is this a saleable product, or is this just to make you even more embedded with your customer base?
It's both, I think. It's to do both. It is it's a scalable product, but also, like I say, it's another factor, it's another string to our bow when we're offering commercial support.
No, I think that's a really good way the temptation would be to go, any growth in the future is going to come from another construction-based infrastructure, civil engineering,
Yeah,
big project. But actually, if this can roll out into any project or any way of costing, I can relate to implementing software into a manufacturing business that, if only we'd have had something
yeah,
to manage that process rather than it going haywire for 10 years.
yeah.
So you learn
And
by your mistakes, but that was 10 years of mistakes,
you do. And
so
to go back to your earlier question, there, it's a bit, and relate to this one as well. It's about being flexible. As an SME, you've got to be flexible. And your early question of, who do you work, who do you most like to work for? You have to be flexible in that. We don't have the privilege of saying we want to work for clients, or we want to work for that particular section or that particular section. You have to be able to work for them all, and you have to have skills to work for them all, because they each have different work at different times. So you've got to be adaptable and flexible, and to pick that up. And that's the same, across the piece. You have
Yeah,
to
no,
be able to
absolutely.
work where the work is.
And I think one of the things that always interests me, you've had 30 years in the sector, 20 years in a very specialist area within that. You formed your own business, you've grown your own business, you're still doing that. So I'm going to take a massive assumption that you actually still enjoy what you're doing. That said, over the last 30 years, is there anything that you do differently, or any advice you'd give to anyone else that maybe, yeah, the advice might be to yourself, if I was going to do it again, I'd do it slightly differently, but to get to a different point?
Would I do things differently? That's a good question. I suppose there's two aspects to that. There's becoming a quantity surveyor, and the time I had working before I set my own business up, and then there's the lessons I've learned since my new business. So I think the construction industry is missing a trick a little bit, and I know there's lots of bodies and things set up. We've got to get the young people attracted into the construction industry. It's a great place to work. You can have a good balance of office work and site work, or or whatever you want to go into. There's excellent apprenticeships, all the type of training. There's always a work bank, because even in recessions, the core industries like the railway need to be maintained. So there's always, nothing's recession proof, but there's always work there. But is it attractive to young people? I've got two sons. Talked about the construction industry. It wasn't in there, nowhere near their top 10 list of places where they'd like to go work. And I think the construction industry could do a lot more in selling itself and attracting young people into it. So that's one area where I think we can learn and do better. Since we set Zinc up, it's some of these things might sound pretty obvious what I'm going to say now, but what we did, we set off like a ground out the traps, where our contracts are. Let's get some work in. You've got to couple that with a resourcing plan behind it. And at times we didn't always do that in the earlier days. So that's definitely a lesson. So if we were developing a strategy for business development, or maybe employing a business development manager or something like that, the very same day I would appoint a resourcing manager to work hand in hand with them, there's no point creating opportunities if you can't fulfill them. And it's actually damaging to create an opportunity and then not fill it, because you can't really then go back to the person for quite a long time and say, anymore, need any work doing? So, well, I asked you before and you couldn't do the work. So you've got to couple them too, and not just race off. And I do see other companies setting up and doing that when they first set up. It's just exactly what we did at the very beginning of away you go, and then we'll worry about resources later. But you've got to be more joined up than that. I would say I did evolve and say it's 50-50 important, but I'd actually say it's more than that now. And I think the resourcing plan is getting the edge 60 to 70% more important than the actual opportunities in the business development side. It's a key, especially in what we're doing, because we sell people, really. We don't build things, not manufacturing things. We sell people into companies.
It's human capital resource and supply of those that time and input, isn't it? I guess so. It's interesting because Yeah, absolutely. A lot of businesses, as you say, literally going out and in the early stages taking business on because it's business,
Yeah,
rather than really looking at, is this the type of business, how we
yeah,
can service it, and actually defining themselves based on the needs of the market, rather than going to the market with an offering and going, someone will buy it. Because with those kind of businesses, we joke about it, but we do say, God forbid your marketing actually works, and all of a sudden you get
yeah,
all of these inquiries and this
yeah.
business and demand, and you sat there going, we haven't got a chance of delivering this.
Yeah,
So,
you've got to do a quality job.
yeah.
You've got to have a focus on quality. You'd be far better in that instance on focusing on existing clients and delivering a quality job on picking up rework than off chasing stuff you maybe can't deliver.
I think that fits with your journey, that you
Mm.
had built those
Yeah,
relationships with previous employers, with previous contracts and work that you delivered
yeah,
before you then set up your business.
yeah,
And you took those relationships and you did the right thing. Why make it harder than it needs to be? If you've got those commercial relationships and you can build a business, let's face it, in another year or under a year, you hit the 10-year anniversary.
yeah. That's right.
That puts you into the top 4% of businesses
Is it
that
really?
start.
Right,
Only 4% make it to 10 years.
right.
So, you've done some amazing things. As you said, you've
Good to
grown
know.
to about 35 people. It, you know, don't beat yourself up too much.
No, no, no.
It's been a
It's a good place.
fantastic journey. As I say,
We've
there's
got
always
things on.
lessons to
Yeah,
learn for others, I guess, which is a great message. So, well, that's actually bringing us towards the end of the interview. It's one of these that we could go on for quite a long time, and before we
yeah,
know it, it'd be getting dark or whatever. But there's some really, really interesting stuff in terms of where you're positioned, but exciting times. The markets taking you in a direction with all the infrastructure
yeah,
projects based on green and
yeah,
renewables and things like that, that I think the next few years are going to be very, very exciting for you, and
yeah.
carve your niche out in that. And some of it will still be in the rail, but there's plenty to go at and
There
plenty
is.
to
That's the
keep you
thing.
busy.
Plenty. If you do a good service, you do good quality. I call it a product. We deliver a good quality product.
Mm-hmm.
People will use you.
Yeah,
You've
absolutely.
got to
And
care
just
about
getting
the
them
job.
to
You've got to
talk,
embrace
isn't
the
it?
job, and you've got to live the job, and you've got to care about the project you're working on. You've got to want to deliver that. It's a construction project, I know, but you've got to want to deliver it. You've got to want it to be a success. Be part of the team, you know.
It's very interesting you use the care word, and I was privileged to see Noel Fitzpatrick, who is the super
Oh yeah.
vet, speak at a large conference, and I'll not use his language because we're recording this, but needless to say, there was quite a lot of harsh emphasis on the point. It was a little bit colourful, but basically what he said was, the moment that you don't care enough, you've already lost.
So that's very true. Yeah.
How true it is. And he came from that, and talking about caring for animals,
Yeah.
and never being told he couldn't do something just because it was for a pet. And yet he's come up with innovations and techniques and methodologies that you would have only said, well, it's got to be something worth 100 grand to develop that, or it's got to be a human life. But he's put the same value because he cares that deeply,
Yeah.
and actually that served him well in the long run. So it's a great
That's
sort of
sorry.
value to carry through, and thank you for sharing that. So that does bring us to the end, and as I really enjoyed listening to the journey and hearing about where it might go. If you, like Jonathan, want to share your journey, if you're watching this and actually thinking it'd be great just to highlight, as we have today with Zinc Consult, but highlight your own business, just simply get in touch. On these videos, when we publish them, we'll always put a way of getting in touch. So if you want
Okay, I'll
to
do that.
record your own, then
Thank
do
you.
that. So it really just ends on a simple thank you. So Jonathan, thank you for joining us this
Yeah,
afternoon.
thank
It's
you.
been very insightful, and really enjoyed having you. So if that brings us to the end, so we look forward to seeing you again. You've been watching another of our Business Spotlight interviews, and we shall see you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Right.